All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill, and there he is, Frankie Corrado, making things happen.
A.K.A. Chesko.
Yeah. Is that right? What does that mean?
I just think it's a short form. I got another nickname that'll just absolutely blow your mind. I think Frankie Francesco, and you shorten that up, and you got Chesko, and you've got an unbelievable handle.
I wish I had that when I was playing.
I like that. Chesko Corrado is really that's 1,200 games in the NHL.
Yeah, and then you become like your share. You're just like, guys know you as like, that's Chesko.
Yeah, there's Chesko.
You walk into the room, and it's like an unspoken.
You're a one-name guy.
Up.
Yeah.
Dude, it's already up under your name.
Chesko.
I love it, man.
I love it, too.
If you don't do it whenever you're on SportsCenter and they font you, if you don't roll with Chesko, not even Corrado, anything, it's just straight, like people with one name,
yeah,
and you're just straight up Chesko.
You're from the bridge already.
Oh, I know, you're Chesko. You're a Brazilian soccer player.
Yes!
That's what you are now. It's Ronaldo.
You have a million Instagram you have 10 million Instagram followers, and you are a massive stud.
We're going to start this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build this, whatever you call it, this brand.
It's a brand.
Yeah.
It's
a lifestyle. It's a brand. It's everything.
I think with Chesko, you got to have nice shades. You got to have tight pants. You got to have some nice, like, sleek shirts.
Yeah.
You got to change everything.
Everything.
I think when you have a handle like Chesko, you can go dress coat and no shirt underneath. Dude, if you pull that one off on a SportsCenter late night hit, I will blow my top off watching that.
What if there's a little gold chain just peeking through, just enough, just a little?
There'd have to be.
But I think Frankie only gets you. It's like, when are we gonna go to a Rick Fowler? I mean,
yeah.
This guy's married with a kid. Yeah. It's got to be Rick Fowler.
Well, when does Dougie go to Doug Hamilton?
I think Dougie Gilmour is Dougie Gilmour forever, and you don't even touch that.
That's the one thing. Like, Dougie Gilmour, he is doing his thing, right? We had Danny Briere. It's not Daniel Briere. It's Danny Briere. But you're right about, like, Rick Fowler, he's had a mustache for 5 years.
Yeah.
He has a mustache.
He has kids.
And he's on this TGL thing that's up tonight that's starting, I guess it's SoFi. It's not the SoFi Stadium. I don't know exactly where it is.
You guys know I go into everything with optimism, and I love golf. I don't know about this one.
I'm not sure I'll be into it either. I don't think I'll be watching. But
imagine guys going from Rolf's backyard to an indoor hitting area in Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah, that's not going to fly. You can't go from Kapalua to that.
No.
You can't. I don't care if the ground is moving. I don't care if they have real sand in there. I don't care what type of production level is going to come with this product. I don't think it's going to land. I'm with you. I want to be optimistic, but I have to be honest, I don't think I am going into this. But I can't imagine I'll be watching. I might check it out, see what's going on. We got a Leaf game tonight. See, Ryan Reaves has been inserted into the lineup in Philly.
I wonder what he's going to get up to, Hazy. I wonder what he's going to get up to.
Wouldn't it be his first fight of the year?
First fight of the year.
He hasn't fought yet.
Game 42 of the season, Ryan Reaves has not fought yet.
Hey, maybe he hasn't had to fight. Like, I can't, if I go back and think of times where it was like, did Reaves need to fight? I don't know. I can't think of anything.
I can only think, guys, of, by the way, 3 guys in the league that would fight him. One plays in New Jersey, one plays for the Rangers, and one plays for Columbus. You got anyone else out there that would go with
Jack
this guy?
I would fight him. Jack I would fight him.
Okay, sorry. 4? Yeah. 4-pack. You're looking at a 6-pack max. You could probably
Jano would probably fight him in L.A. if he, although he got Jano last year. Remember, he popped him last year.
Yeah, we're talking about a 6-pack.
Not many guys. And
Tommy Wilson would go him for sure.
Wilson probably would, although Wilson's scoring goals, man. Wilson is a rock star right now, and he's in a bit of a different category where he's playing on a top line. He's on pace for like 40 this year, so I'm not sure Tom Wilson would do it. The question is, will Garnet Hathaway do it? That's the question.
Garnet Hathaway will do it. He's a pretty tough guy.
You think he'll fight tonight?
I think
he's a tough guy, but
I think if Reaves asked him, he will fight.
I would be shocked if Reaves didn't. Like this is, it's complicated because it's 2025. We're in a different era, but if this was Craig Berube 30 years ago, hadn't been playing, and Hathaway got into a fight with a good player the game before, and then Berube's coach said, "You're in tonight," Berube would get the message immediately. Now, I'm not saying that Craig Berube, the coach, is doing that necessarily, and I think he would have too much respect for Ryan Reaves. He wouldn't have to tap him on the shoulder or anything.
It's not hard to figure out.
It's not hard to figure out.
Yeah, and I'm sure Hathaway knows the deal too. He's been around a long time, and he's played the role. But he also has, I'm sure Ryan Reaves isn't going to chase this guy around the ice and say, "This is on my terms only." He's probably going to say, "I got to do it. You want to go?" And Hathaway doesn't have to do it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. And
I don't think he would be like that. I don't think if Reaves said, "Look, man, we got to go," after what happened to McCabe, he's probably going to say, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I would think in warm-up the conversation probably happens. That's what happened with Reaves and Rempe, Reaves and
Delorier,
I think. Yes, that's right. And a few different guys around the league.
I don't think Delorier played the other night for Philly.
I haven't. No, I didn't see him out there.
Is he injured or is he?
I'm not sure what his status is right now, but
well, that could be another option. Maybe he just steps in and says, "I'll handle this." So,
yeah,
there you go.
I mean, I don't know if that will work for the Leafs. They may not feel like that's going to be enough.
Hathaway plays hard. He's not a rat. He's not he's not a heavyweight, but he will be willing to go. I would, if I was putting money down, I would say they're going to fight tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Reaves isn't going to jump him because Reaves he doesn't really operate that way. I think it will probably be, if you're Hathaway, I think you want it on the fly where you can grab him quick. The thing is with Reaves,
that's what Reaves isn't going to give you.
He doesn't want to go off the fly.
He wants the center ice square up.
He wants off the draw where you have to try to reach in on him.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets dangerous because he throws cinder blocks. And if he gets you and starts coming in hot, you're in trouble. If I'm Hathaway, I don't know why we're overthinking this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of remember Matt Cook, and this is not the same scenario at all. Hathaway, again, McCabe wanted the fight. McCabe stood over him, kept
McCabe
pushing him and pushed
twice,
him.
You kind of know what's coming.
Yes. Hathaway, I think, got up and was like, this guy's going to start throwing. I better start throwing. Hathaway was in the right to start the fight.
Yeah.
And be prepared for the fight. But when you have a scenario it's one thing to fight McCabe, it's another thing to fight Reaves. And if you're Hathaway, I think you want to get inside and grab him as quickly as you can.
One shot, I think Hathaway would have got up.
He would have been fine there.
The second shot, he's like, "All right, that's enough."
Yeah, this, you can't take liberties with me. And I think McCabe probably knew that. But
totally
I think
right. The first shot, he's like, "Okay, I can." The second one, he was like, "Dude, get the hell away from me! Now I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, exactly. And I think the way he fell. I don't know exactly how he got injured. If it was that his head hit the ice. Looked like Hathaway kind of fell on him. Maybe his knee got him a little bit. And I wonder if the Leafs are not overly happy about that. Anyway, Reaves is going in tonight.
Yeah.
And it's in Philly. It's old school. What I'm curious about is how Torts will react to this. Because John Tortorella, he's a hero. He's a hero in these moments, right? You think, were you on the team in Vancouver when it was Vancouver and Calgary?
I just got sent down, and we were watching that game on the bus, and we watched our buddy Kellen Lane get kicked out 2 seconds into the game.
Right.
He got into the fight with everyone on the ice.
And that was Bob Hartley was the coach for the Flames.
And Torts went down the tunnel. He was gonna choke out Bob Hartley.
Right. And he didn't even get in.
Was he, though? What was Torts going to do? I know Torts is a angry little dude, but is Torts gonna But the best thing was the guy that was staring right at Torts was, guess who?
It was McGrattan.
Brian McGrattan.
Brian McGrattan was there.
Brian McGrattan was like, "Okay, Torts, if you do one thing, I am gonna strangle you right in front of everyone."
Don't kid yourself. There were guys on that Calgary team that would have loved to see Torts strangle Bob Hartley.
Oh yeah, they weren't the biggest fan of Hartley.
There would have been some guys that would have been like,
get one shot in, Torts, and then we got to remove you. We'll give you one free shot. Because Stage was right there too. Matt Stajan is blocking Torts. Stage wasn't going to do anything. Stage would not have done anything. He would have allowed McGrattan to do it. But if you look at the video, if you can find it, Joe, it's a wild scene because there's Torts in the middle, and they're all on skates. So McGrattan's 6'8" on skates.
Yeah.
He is a massive human being without skates. And Torts is up to basically his waist. And he's trying to get into the room in Calgary. But the reason I bring that up is if Berube, and I don't think he'll do this, but if it's a scenario where he starts Reaves and then it's well, do I have to start Hathaway? He's not going to yell and scream at Berube tonight. I don't think. He might, But I don't think it'd be a scenario where Torts is over the bench yelling at Craig Berube, because I would suggest that's not in your best interest.
I don't know if Berube wants to start as like Reaves.
Why would you want to do
that? In a while? Why are you going to do it? Like you're
old
kinda,
school. That would have happened if it felt like the Leafs were really pissed off about it.
In between, you can act like you want to strangle somebody.
You think Torts would have the audacity to pretend like he's going at Craig Berube? You think he would do it?
He would yell over and be like, "What the hell do you think you're doing? What are we doing here? What kind of game are we playing here?"
Yeah, you could be right.
Well, it would make for some great entertainment.
It would be great because Berube's a legend in Philly, like as a player, as a coach. Anyway, I don't know. I'm anticipating some fireworks tonight. Yet you got Joseph Woll getting the start again, and the Leafs. It's a game where you're going there and you're favored. You're favored to win again. Like, why wouldn't you take another 2 points on Philly? They're an inferior team, and what the Leafs have done very well through 41 games is they have found a way to avoid losing the game that every Leaf fan is bracing for them to lose.
Hazy,
right?
I think they've just found some consistency, and they found a different way to win, which is before I think they just said, guys, let's just skill the absolute wheels off of this thing, and hopefully we can rip home 5 goals, and hopefully our goalie doesn't give up 6. And that was almost like their approach. It's more of a business-like, boring. We were talking at the beginning of the year where some people that work with us, they didn't like the way they were dumping the puck in all the time.
Yeah.
They didn't like the way that they were creating off. I don't know. They're at the top of the division, near the top of the league, and it's a different look. And it's going to be a way more different look come playoff time, and they're going to give themselves a better chance to win. And I said it to the first 10 games. They've given themselves a chance to win against tough teams, against back-to-back situations when they're tired and they don't have their A game, because the way they play, it enables their B game to have success, and it should give them an opportunity to win come playoff time.
Yeah.
Who on earth wouldn't want that?
No.
Everyone loves entertaining hockey. But when you have entertaining hockey that has no chance to win, that's complete lunacy.
And then when you get the results, like they're top in the division, like it validates everything that you're trying to do.
Yeah, don't you think all the players in the dressing room would be going for beers or having dinner saying, maybe this guy's onto something. This is the way to do it.
Yeah.
And he's got the street cred because he's won a Stanley Cup.
Well, and they're more comfortable in those kinds of games. And you're right. Like it is a little less entertaining. I think.
Of course it is.
Can we all agree with that? Like it's a little less entertaining. It's a little more boring, call it. But they're getting the results and they're more comfortable in those kinds of games. And one of the things that I think is, I haven't seen as much. It's like the second period and someone's got to take some kind of weird risk that you don't have to do. It leads to an odd man rush or, someone blows an assignment and it's in the back of the net and it's like, why did you have to win the game with 8 minutes left in the second period? They don't do that this year. Mm-hmm. It's like we're okay just kind of doing the same thing over and over, and then we force them to make a mistake or we take it into overtime and we win. And they've played some teams, the Islanders, Philly. It's like these are boring games where they can force you to do some things that maybe you don't feel like doing or you want to try and force something and it doesn't work. They haven't deviated. Well, they're comfortable. They stick with it.
What also sticks out is when they do revert back to old habits or there is some sort of lazy play that it really sticks out now where it used to blend in more. I'll give you an example. The other night, the Lawton goal, Willie, like Nylander, is really soft on the boards. It gets rimmed around. He just kind of stabs at it, and then he stares at it, and then it's in the back of the net. That gets overly exposed now because you haven't seen it as much. Like, guys have been way more committed, and it's not accepted. That's another thing. It's understood that you can't play that way. Not that Keefe was wanting them to do that in the past. It just seemed to happen more often. There were more lazy plays. There was more of we'll get that one back, as opposed to addressing it in the moment and realizing that can't happen. And, that was an example the other night because Willie, he was lazy. It was just a lazy kind of soft play on the boards. And Willie's in one right now. Like Nylander's kind of in a slump, but that's another thing that I would say about, how we've described the season through 41 games. Much more businesslike, much more quiet, at times boring, yet not necessarily reducing the overall stats. Like, Marner's on pace for 112 points. Yep. That would be a career year. So, yes, they're playing a different style and a different system. It is not stopping Mitch Marner from being he's in the top 10 for the Hart right now based on odds. I looked it up on FanDuel coming in here. I think I want to say he's 8th. I think he's 7th or 8th.
And that's appropriate.
And that's absolutely appropriate. The guy's been unbelievable this year. John Tavares is going to score 40 goals and possibly have a career year as a Toronto Maple Leaf. This Berube style, it's not stopping these guys from putting up numbers. Matthew Nyes is on pace for 30. Bobby McMahon might score 25. It's Austin is the outlier, but Matthews hasn't been healthy. So it does, yes, it feels different. Yes, it's not as if it doesn't feel like they're cheating necessarily, or they're in these barn burner type of games, or they're giving up leads where they have to win in overtime. Yet, I would think if I'm Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, they've all made money. They're all going to continue to make money. They've all been here for a long time. They're still getting their cookies, and they're winning, and it feels and looks different. If you apply it in the playoffs, you're likely to have more success. Who wouldn't be ecstatic with that?
Yeah.
God,
like they should be thrilled.
The one thing that fans, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just Toronto or, I mean, Frank, you played in Vancouver. I don't know what other markets are like. People are still obsessed coming up to me, and they don't talk about, man, it looks like they have a good chance to win this year. Are things different? You know what they go right to? They go right to John Tavares' contract. What's that going to look like? What do you think they're going to sign? And I'm just like, why does that have to be the first thing that comes up? I don't know. And you know what I say to them when it comes to John Tavares? I'm like, you know what? He's playing really well. There's also a guy down in Tampa Bay that ripped home 40 goals for the Lightning last year, and their team decided to walk away from him for whatever reason it was. So it's not like you just have a good season and all of a sudden you're just owed something. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning said, Stamkos, great year, 40 goals, but we're just not signing you. And the other one is the Marner, which is obviously
it's a different conversation because of his age.
But it's crazy that
his
it's
prime.
Just, the idea of like, maybe there's a better chance to win, and hopefully they sign some good guys at trade deadline. At Disco, they go right to those two contracts.
It's a programming thing, man. It's because when the team
programming within the market.
Yeah, it's the programming within the market because there's always there's such a hyper focus on these players because of what they've represented, what they've done. But also, the playoffs being a completely separate conversation. We're not there. It's a long season. Yeah, I don't know. It's a unique market that way. I do think it probably happens everywhere in the country.
The craziest part about it is when they bring up, how old is John Tavares? Is he 34 years old?
Yeah, he'll be 35 when he kicks in next year.
People talk to me about his contract. They go in complete Joe from the Bridge mode, and they're like, they better give this guy a 5 or 6 year deal. I'm like, are you on drugs, man?
I know, it's crazy.
You can still say that he's having a great season and be like, yeah, it's up in the air as far as what they want to do with term and AAV, whatever. You can figure
January,
out.
man.
If I was looking at any kind of contract for John Tavares, and I hate even going there because why not? Let's see what they do in the playoffs. Term would be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It would be no more than 1 or 2 years. Not 1 second. Not
yeah.
1
well, it's
second.
an interesting question. Like you see it in other sports where veteran guys are willing to sign one-off deals. Like, give me a 1-year deal. We'll re-up. I want to see where I am.
Yes.
Like I don't know. Maybe John's not comfortable with that. I don't know. He's always had term.
Well, who wants to be attached to the deal when the wheels fall off and then you're paying? Like, people literally say to me, it better be a 5 or 6 year deal at $5 or $6 million. I'm like, dude, you're
that's
high.
absurd. I mean,
dude, it is.
Yeah.
People are they've gone nuts. It's like
that's
a
bit
5 or 6 year deal at $5 million. This guy's not 23 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be 35 when it kicks in.
I think you mentioned Vancouver. Like, yeah, I played in that market, and I'm still kind of like up to date in that market. They are like, they'll talk about contracts 2-3 years out. Like Hughes is coming up. I don't know if it's 2 years. Like, but he's
didn't Hughes just sign?
His wasn't as long as Pedersen's. So like he's gonna get
a 5 or 6 year deal.
Yeah, he's under 8. So like that's coming in at huge money.
Dude, that guy's going to be making $15 million.
Besser's a UFA. Like that, I don't know what's going on there. They're talking about that. The Pedersen deal, they were talking about that when Aho signed his extension with Carolina. Well, if Aho got 9.75, so I guess it is like it happens in Canada. Like that's
it's a Canadian thing.
Do. Like what does
thing.
the team look like in 6 months?
Guys, I wonder when it comes up to the deadline and guys teams keeping talent. And I have talked a bunch on this show how I believe the league is watered down, and I believe there's 10 guys on every team that shouldn't be in the league, if not more. And I'm not the only one that thinks like that. But you wonder if teams, like, as opposed to just having fire sales because they're so desperate from talent, they're going to be like, I'm not trading away these guys. because I'm just going to spend the next 3 years trying to find another one of these guys.
Well, that's the truth, is the discrepancy now. If there's 10 guys on every team that shouldn't be in there, the 10 guys that should have real value in this league.
Yes, and they're going to be like, if I get rid of that guy, I'm just going to spend 2 years trying to find that guy.
Dude, you know who's in that position? Montreal's going to be in that position because they got a bunch of UFAs, and it's like they're in a playoff spot. So what do you just trade Dvorak and Armia because they're UFAs?
You have to. You have to if you're Montreal. Like, you've got to commit.
That's a stupid comment. You better go to commercial and come back, because that's the most insane thing I've heard in 10 years on this show.
The Habs got a win last night. The Bell Center is absolutely
on fire. The
Habby
Togs are the best team in the league right now.
They're on fire, man. Did you see that sequence last night? Goalie stepped up, threw a massive hit, and then 30 seconds later, Suzuki to Caulfield.
You meant to say my guy, Goalie.
I have always been a Caden Goalie guy.
You've been a Goalie guy?
Always a Goalie guy.
I was unaware of that.
I wanted, yes, I was pushing for the Leafs to take him the year of his draft.
But listen to this guy, Chesko.
Big
he
Goalie
wants
guy.
to dump everybody in the middle of this run.
Because
that's insanity.
No, because you
take
have
a break
to be
and let's
honest
get into
with
it.
what you really are and where you actually are in the process, okay? We'll come back. We'll get into it. Marc Denis will join us.
Marc Denis.
Marc
Denis coming up.
We
love Marc Denis. Love Marc Denis.
I'm going to play Marty. We're going to play Coach's Interview. Remember when we used to play there? I'm going to be Marty St. Louis, and you're going to be Kent Hughes, and I'm going to walk in and say, "What are you doing, Kenny boy?
All right.
What are you doing?"
You need a little bit of a
goatee,
stubble.
man.
You need a little beard if you want to be Marty St. Louis.
Marty's got that.
He's got the victory beard right now.
He's got that St. Catherine's vibe to him, man. That downtown Montreal core is rocking right now. They're feeling good.
Yeah.
Marty St. Louis is on fire, and so are the Habs. So, all right, we'll get into it. Little role play, and Marc Denis will join us because the Habs are officially in a playoff spot. First time since 2021, this deep into the season, they were even in the playoff mix, let alone in the playoffs. Ottawa's in action. They're trying to leapfrog them tonight. They're in Detroit playing the Red Wings. So we'll look ahead to a big night in the NHL, and Marc Denis will join us. Mike Johnson coming up, confirm or deny later this afternoon. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Marc Denis coming up of RDS. The Habs winning in overtime last night. The Habs are in the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens are in the playoffs.
They're in the mix.
What do you want to do?
I'll tell you what I want to do. Are you playing Marty St. Louis?
I'm going to come in the office. Hello, Kenny. How are you, pal? We're rolling here.
Yeah.
What do you plan on doing to my squad? Because I don't think it's fair to the young guys to just rip their hearts out and move guys out of the lineup when we're making a move here. What are you going to do, big boy?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to the plan because I am the maestro, all right? I'm the guy running this orchestra, not you, Marty. I brought you in alongside Jeff Gordon. You're doing a pretty good job. But the fact of the matter is, this is still about the future. And we have kids that have already arrived.
That's enough.
And they're putting up big numbers.
Kenny.
It's Kent.
I got to tell you.
For starters, you start calling me Ken again, you're out of here, Marty St. Louis.
I went from Kent to Kenny. But I just want to tell you, this is where the analytics come into, like, the real-life competitive stuff, where it's like, you know how people had this fantasy world of drop down and let's get 2 second-rounders of a first. We saw how that worked out. Sometimes you got to have some feel involved. I'm sure bring in Marc Denis. He'll tell you. They got to just stay the course.
You think Mark's going to commit to your statement on that?
Absolutely. Bring him in and ask him.
Okay, here he is. Longtime NHLer from RDS. Frankie, you see him all the time.
I love chatting
at the Bell
with Marc
Center.
Denis. We chatted up before every game.
All right, here's Marc Denis. How you doing, Mark?
Gentlemen, outstanding. So who do I have to endorse, and who do I send the invoice to? That's what I want to know off the front.
Mark, here's the scenario.
Go ahead.
I said, Bryan Hayes, the host of the show, said, get rid of everybody at the deadline.
No, I didn't say
hang on a sec. He said, I got to
that.
stick with the plan, and I'm dumping players to get draft picks, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I said, they've got a good vibe right now. I don't know if you can do that to the locker room. They've had so many tough losses, and they finally get cooking, and then you're going to start ripping guys out of that lineup. I don't think that's the right play at this particular time. Please weigh in with your thought process.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'm glad we're having this conversation because a couple of weeks back, there wouldn't have been a conversation. Everybody would have been on board. You just, sell the farm because nothing's working. Right now, this is a much different team. This is a team that went into a very tough holiday trip, coming out of it beating 4 Stanley Cup champs, or the 4 most recent Stanley Cup champs, winning a big game against Vancouver last night. And not only are they in the mix, which a lot of people around here in Montreal have been making fun of, they're actually in a playoff spot as we speak, with the next game being the midway part of the season. So, listen, I'll tell you this much. I think Brian is dead on. If this show was being aired, hold on, Brian. You're not gonna like me here.
All right.
If this show was being aired, it was being aired 365 days ago. This plan of Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon at this moment, where they're at, they're more competitive than definitely expected after 25 games. And now this plan now is about signing, Jake Evans and maybe listening and entertaining options. But even Yoel Armia has become an option to come back next season. So this is a much different animal than, when first-round picks were on the table for Sean Monahan. This is a team that's actually sent a pretty strong message. Unfortunately, I've been part of teams that haven't been in the race, that don't send messages, and you know what's coming. But at this point in time, I think to some extent, sticking to the plan is maybe another Alexandre Carrier type of deal, but definitely not selling out or going to get a very expensive veteran player. I think part of the rebuild, one of the greatest part of the rebuild is if, you don't speed it up with getting an expensive veteran, is you get that team playing meaningful games late in the season and maybe even a playoff round. And now, that rebuild is on fast forward.
Well, listen, I appreciate that they're in a different position today, certainly than they were a month ago, certainly than they were a year ago. I will say the deadline is in March, so let's see what happens between now and then, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if the wheels fall off a little bit, I would think if they get a call on David Savard and the price is right, then they might make that decision to move on from him.
But what would the price be right for? If it's some kind of third-round pick, does that make any sense? What the hell does that turn into, man?
That's a good question. Frankie, you can chime in on that.
I think, Mark, there was one morning where Marty was asked about the rebuild and he was asked about the veteran players, and I never thought about it this way, but he said, the veteran guys sacrifice a lot in a rebuild. They basically say, young guys, we're going to be patient with you, and we're going to give you guys a lot of leeway and be there for you. But then Marty said at some point, the tables have to turn. The young guys have to repay it to the vets that sacrifice their individual careers and seasons for these guys. And now it feels like we're almost getting to that point, doesn't it? Where the young guys have taken control and the Armia, Savard, Dvorak, these guys that you're all talking about that are UFAs, it's like, maybe they can prosper a little bit here because of the work of the young guys and them being patient. I don't know. Mark, does that make sense to you?
It does. And if we're going to get into the very fine details of the different players we've been talking about, I believe at this moment that Christian Dvorak is going to walk and they're going to let him walk. Apart from that, I think all three other players are in play. Jake Evans, I do believe the Montreal Canadiens will start negotiating pretty hard eventually to bring him back into the fold. Now that leaves Armia and Savard. Armia, is going to be tough to replace. I don't see a player as of now, and maybe Ivan Demidov comes over from Russia and he steps in, but, we're talking about depth player here. Where David Savard, maybe you need to move on from him. Although he's a local guy, maybe you need to move on from him because Logan Mayhew's ready to step in and be your right-hand third-pairing defenseman, and you need some ice time for David Reinbacher eventually, who's going to come back from injury and who's a highly touted high draft pick. The truth of the matter is, at this point, though, why would you even entertain a third-round pick when David Savard, at this point in time and in the playoff race, is a glue guy for your team? He'll block a gazillion shots if he can. He will be there to make sure that the dressing room is united. He'll be an extension of the coaching staff, and with a very quiet, I'm going to use the word quiet, not boring, quiet leader in Nick Suzuki, who scores the big goals. He scored all three overtime goals this year for the Canadiens. You also need a vocal leader in their dressing room who's been through it. And David Savard is vocal, and he's been through it, and everybody, including the coaching staff and the management, love him. I'm a big fan of David Savard as well. So I'm with you. I don't know if that's enough to bring him back, but that's definitely not enough for me to deal him for a third-round pick.
Mark, can you explain how, you're a goaltender, like a goaltending tweak, and we saw this last year where Jack Campbell went out the door and Calvin Pickard came in the door. All of a sudden, the Edmonton Oilers turn into the 89 Oilers, and they start winning every night. And Montreal Canadiens, the same thing. It's like Primo went down, and Patrick Waugh comes in, the new Patrick Waugh, and all of a sudden they're the 89 Habs. It's like it's just one little tweak that just sets everything on fire, and it's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain, and at the same time, I'm going to try to really quickly. Jakub Dobes has been kind of under the radar. Caden Primo in this whole menage a trois thing last year with 3 goalies and not wanting to lose them on waivers. And then Dobes gets, dealt a pretty tough hand. But you know what he made of that tough hand? I mean, he made a 5-course service out of a can of tuna is what he did. He played way too much. They went out and got a veteran player to help him out at the AHL level. And all of a sudden, his months of October and November at the AHL level, coming out of the Ohio State University, being a very good college player where I'm going to be very respectful, but where the straight-ahead, direct, linear game will get you good stats when you're a good athletic goalie is not the same as the pro level. All of a sudden, he settles down, becomes a very good AHL goalie, plays a lot of games because they're keeping 3 goalies up top with the Montreal Canadiens. And now he gets lost in the whole Jacob Fowler's the next guy, Samuel Montembeau's playing great, which he has been. And when it's time to step up, he just does that. And it's not about being cocky, but it's about being confident enough to say, listen, I'm not an underdog. I'm going to come in and I'm going to beat the reigning champions. I'm going to come in and play the last game of the trip. And you know what? I'm going to stand tall against the Colorado Avalanche. And he did just that. So I think, confidence is a two-way street. I don't know, Frankie and Jeff, if you guys agree with that, but, it's one thing to say, listen, we got a young guys back there. We're going to protect him, but he also needs to make the saves. I think both of these factors have been part of the Montreal Canadiens turnaround in this late road trip where, they've been protecting their goalies better, and their goalies have been giving them a chance to be better as a team as well.
With Marc Denis of RDS. So we were...
Hayes, I just got to interrupt you. Mark, I just want to let you know Bryan played in the OHL, too. He knows all about this.
I could adhere to it, too, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. But, Bryan, I didn't think you were going to try to have a conversation with me since I totally shut down your idea of selling the farm. So I was like,
It's all good. We're open for discussion here. You're selling me. You're moving me in the right direction here. And we were in Montreal for 3 or 4 days, I guess, in September around the President's Cup. And the Lane Hutson hype in mid-September was out of control. Oh, we showed up. I think the first thing we talked about when we got on the air on the Tuesday was this Lane Hutson kid's taking over the town. Everyone in Montreal is buzzing about him.
Gordon made the comment. He was like, I told the GM, I'm like, good luck sending that kid down if that's what you choose because people are
going to be in love with him. And now he's leading the league in rookie scoring. He had a goal and 2 assists last night. He's playing 25 minutes every single night.
Wow.
You're watching it up close and personal. Like the stats would indicate this kid is a rock star. How good does he look live, and how is the market reacting to him in January compared to what they were saying about him in September?
Yeah, the craziness hasn't stopped, and I'll tell you this, he looks like a rock star as well. He's playing the part. Listen, Frankie, you played the position, and hopefully you help me out here and add to what I'm going to say, but the stats are the stats. And you know what? Just saying in the same sentence that he's ahead of Mishkov and Celebrini, you guys get it. But what I've been most impressed with is how combative he is trying to defend when he loses the puck, because hiccups will happen. He's playing so much. And the other thing I'll say is last night was a very physical affair. And after getting hit a couple of times early in the game, and I don't think this was his best game about midway through the game, he got points in the 3 most important goals of the game. So to me, that's what impresses me, because those are signs that it's not just going to fade away eventually. Those are signs usually of players not putting up numbers and saying the numbers will come because they're doing the right things. Well, he's doing the right things and the numbers are coming. So I've been very impressed. I'm watching him now closely as he's going to go a second time around the league, and there are no signs of fading. I mean, will it come eventually? I'm sure there'll be a lull at some point. The game won't be perfect, but everything he's brought to the table has been very impressive for a 20-year-old defenseman. I mean, we're talking about the rookie scoring chase. If you're talking about the defenseman rookie scoring chase, he's got a 24-point lead.
Oh, it's not even close.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
this was ridiculous.
So, no one's in the same stratosphere as him when it comes to that. You know what, Mark? Like, I agree with you. I think he's super, super, super competitive. Anytime he's given up the puck or he's had to, deal with body contact, it's like he works. Like, he works to get it back all the time. But there was a game in Detroit right before the Christmas break. He had that really bad giveaway. Puck goes in the back of the net, and you're like, okay, how does he react to that? Like, is he going to kind of wilter a little bit? And he came back, and it wasn't that he was stubborn. It was like, I just keep playing my game. And then he drew the penalty that ended up, getting them the power play that Laine shot the puck and they won the game. And you're like, there's the mental strength of this guy to do what he does. I think that's also what really sticks out to me.
Yeah, short-term memory. I think that's very important. I think Kanan Goulet is a good example of what to do because he's that type of young defenseman as well. But it's impressive. And you know what? He wants to be that guy. Like, he's not worried. Yesterday, he recognizes the situation. There's a broken stick on Hoglander in front of him. He just attacks them dead on. The penalty is not against Hutson, but it's on the Hoglander because he's just got danced because he's got no stick, and Lane Hutson just attacked him head on. I love that. Veteran players they'll just get nervous with the puck on their stick more than half a second. He doesn't. So that impresses me. He recognizes the situation. How many times, frankly, we've been calling a lot of games, and how many times has he lost the puck, and the next thing you know, our play-by-play man right beside us is just saying, here's Lane Hutson, giveaway or losing the puck, and there he is in the neutral zone, crawling it. It's like, already? Like, he's already back there? He doesn't let up.
He's fun to watch, man.
He is.
He is fun to watch.
His brother might be better than him. That's the scary thing. His brother, I just watched him at the World Juniors, Cole. He's unreal, man.
Yeah, he had himself a ton.
Pretty young and out there, right? How about that jersey ripping against the Finns and the comment against Easton Cowan? Wow, he's more vocal than Lane.
He's not shy. No, he's not.
Not shy.
And we've noticed, Suzuki obviously has been playing really well recently. He's putting up a lot of points. Do you think there's something to him being left off the Canadian team? Like, is this a reaction? Is it a coincidence? What do you make of Suzuki and his play since not being named to the Four Nations face-off?
That's an interesting question. I think he's a pretty level-headed man. I think the Montreal Canadiens knew how to react and to surround him after that decision. I think right now Nick Suzuki, as I said earlier, he's a quiet leader, but he takes this role, which I think is a huge one, with being captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs or the New York Rangers. I mean, they're tough gigs at the NHL level. He was a captain when he was just a young man still, and I think he was pretty upfront about saying he wanted to be a point-a-game player and he wanted to help this team win. And scoring the 3 overtime game winners and being back to a point-a-game as of last night with a 3-point night, he's true to his words. He plays big minutes. He's been playing a little less because Montreal willingly wanted to bring him back and not play so much penalty kill. But last night, Jake Evans gets a tough penalty, and who do you call to? You call to your captain. Mm-hmm. So he's been playing. He's got a very important role. With Laine being out of the lineup last 3 games, Pizzetta has a tough time getting the even strength minutes. So, Nick Suzuki gets double shifted, and he answers the bell. I got nothing to say. I don't think it's a reaction. I think it's a great story. We've talked about it on our broadcast. I think it makes for a great story. I don't think it's a reaction. I think it's the right way to bounce back because he wanted to be part of that team. I think we'd all agree, but I think it's the right way to respond after not being chosen. And it will come. He will be on national teams eventually if he just keeps playing the way he has been.
Yep, absolutely. The Olympics obviously coming up in a year. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he was a part of that team. Great stuff, Mark. Really appreciate you doing this. We'll do it again down the road. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on, gentlemen.
You got it. Marc Denis of RDS. Mark was, I believe, World Junior player twice. I think back-to-back years World Junior. I think he won a couple of golds, too. That was in that 5-year run in the mid-'90s. But, yeah, you look at, Montreal, Caulfield's been great, Suzuki's been great, Hudson's been great, but all their veteran guys are playing. Gallagher's played every night, Anderson's played every night.
And Anderson's playing different this year. Like last year, they would put him on the top line, then put him on the power play. None of that's happening this year.
Mm-hmm.
Third line, forecheck, energy, penalty kill, get off the ice.
Couple big fights.
Yeah.
Just role
But that's
definition. It's like
Yeah.
you're not you kind of aren't a top end scorer anymore.
Yeah.
Like you just so don't try to act like it. Go out there and work your ass off, and you got a different role now.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's
And if any of these young guys take their foot off the gas, you can go in and play a couple games.
which is going to happen. You're going to need
Yes,
that, right? Like,
of course.
especially if they're going to stay in the hunt. They're going to need those
Well, if they are
veteran
injured,
guys.
like if they get injured, right? Like they've been this year when they had Line in the lineup. I saw a stat that was the first time they've had a healthy lineup since like when Marty took over that team, like the first month of him taking over that team.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, is not that long ago, but still, it's a long time to not have a fully healthy team.
Yeah,
they've had a lot of
before
injuries.
the Habs fans come at me and say Cole Hutson, he's going to win Rookie of the Year now, and you made this stupid comment early in the season. I want to circle back on the comment, and all I meant was if they continue to get their brains caved in every night and losing like they're losing, and this guy's on the ice and is just getting demolished out there, they might need to think about putting him somewhere else, whether that be the minors or whatever. Things have changed and it's different now, but that's my only point because I know that one's coming.
Well, you know, I saw you on SportsCenter last night, Frankie, and it was well documented. We talked about it a lot. They were horrendous defensively the first like 25, 30 games of the year. Horrendous.
Yes.
They're the worst in the league. Like,
and I didn't know what that was going to do to the kid.
Exactly, and that applied to a lot of guys. Like it's kind of like keep Mayu out of here, keep this guy out of here. There's no point in bringing this guy up. Now things have significantly changed. You know, they're playing really well. They're healthy. They're getting very good goaltending. And credit to Montreal because I didn't see this coming. I didn't see them in a position to be talking about the playoffs in January, but that is precisely where they're at.
I'm pretty sure the defensive play helps out the goaltending. You ask any goaltender, you play with some kind of knowing what the hell you're doing in your own zone, it makes the goaltender's life that much
That was
a
the
long
big
way.
thing. They would make one mistake, and it's like that's a grade A. That's in the back of the net. Now it's not like one. They're not as fragile. That there's not one mistake that's a massive blunder.
Yeah, it was a big one last night. For a Monday night, too, like the Bell Center is such an electric arena. But if you get Hutson scoring and Suzuki in overtime and Caulfield and it's a Canadian
place,
team you're
man.
playing, it's a fun place. It really is. Mike Johnson coming up in 20 minutes. More into the Leafs Flyers tonight. And, speaking of the Habs and the Sens, I've got a question I'll pose the two of you. We'll pose it to Johnny and we'll get into it about East versus West and the playoff hunt. We'll get into that and more still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, we sent Al's brother out into the world with a pair of Leaf tickets. Into the world. That seems a little bit overly dramatic. We've sent him into the world with a pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. That said, yesterday's clue, he admitted he's not in the country. So I guess Al's brother,
He's in the world.
Yeah, it's a Carmen Sandiego
Makes it
vibe.
seem like he doesn't get out much.
He doesn't. He's either in his apartment or he's on a cruise.
Ship.
That's it. Maybe at a card show. Card show, apartment, cruise. Maybe Niagara Falls for the weekend. Yeah. Pit stop. All right, here's Al's brother's second clue of the week.
Hey, OD fans, happy Tuesday to you. I've got another clue for you to get you one step closer to those Leafs and Devils tickets on January 16th. The location that I am at this week is in a warm and sunny destination with a great view of the Atlantic Ocean.
All right, there you go. Tune in tomorrow for another clue. And the first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets again to see Leafs Devils January 16th. And Find Al's Brother is brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca.
Is he in
He's
the
in
Gulf
Fort
of
Lauderdale.
America?
He could be. Yeah.
Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America. That's right. That was announced today. High priorities. Right when Trump gets into office, he's changing it. Can you do that? Like, I guess you can, but like if you're in Mexico, don't you continue to call it the Gulf of Mexico? Why would you just accept that he's going to change it? My concern is like he's going to look at Lake Ontario soon and say that's Lake America. Lake of New York or Lake of America. That's coming next. Like, why? If he's going to take the Gulf of Mexico, are we going to lose Lake Ontario? Because we do share it with the Americans.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
That's coming, man. Lake Ontario is going to be Lake New York.
We got to hang on to Lake Ontario.
New York.
Lake New York. We got to hold on to that, man. I know we got a lot of issues up here too. I don't know who's running the show right now. There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
But you
Dude,
better hold on to that lake.
He was talking about the Great Lakes one time, and I think he said, he goes, I love the Great Lakes. They're he went like this, they're very
deep. Always have.
very deep.
He's always been a big supporter of the Great Lakes. Guy's from New York. Why would he care about the Great Lakes as a kid? We got to get that clip. It's one of his best.
Record deepness, right?
Record deepness. Record deepness. The Great Lakes. Always been a supporter. Always have. All right, hour 2 coming up. Mike Johnson will join us. Leafs Philly tonight. We got Confirm or Deny coming up at 5:30 as well. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.